Hi there. I'm Sylvia DiPietro, and welcome to another episode of Live Your Life by the Numbers. This is part 3 of the series that I've been doing on Pinnacles of Attainment, taken off of your month, day, and year of birth. So, really, basically, what is a pinnacle of attainment? A pinnacle, a high point like that, is a period in your life where you can attain great things. And it points to a specific area that you may enjoy to develop for your further growth in this lifetime. There are points where, if you look at the number that it represents and you follow that number, either vocationally or avocationally, you're going to lay a firm foundation as a stepping stone as you go along. Now, in our lives, there are 4 pinnacles of attainment: the first, second, third, and fourth, the first and the last being the longest pinnacles of attainment. These are very good high spots. They're not challenges, they're high spots. They're where you can really make a dent in your life. And so we're going to start. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to go in. Let me share my screen. And there we go, really fast. And here we're going to look at how we achieve or arrive at the pinnacles of attainment. Now, I'm going to be going faster because I've gone through this in now 3 other episodes of teaching you. So if you have any problem, go back to Pinnacles 1 through 6 and look at the beginning, or go through the one before that where I discuss pinnacles in general, and give yourself a better foundation. Now, as I mentioned, these pinnacles have different vibrations, each one of the 4, and they're very, very easy to calculate. What we do first is we take our month, day, and year of birth, and we reduce each one, the month, the day, and the year of birth, to a single digit. Now, if at any point in those numbers you get a master number, in this case only, reduce that master number to a single digit. Later on, I'm going to teach you about double digits, and you won't have to reduce them. But for now, I want to get you to understand how to compute your 4 pinnacles of attainment and how we start. What is the longest pinnacle, which is your first, and another long one, which is your last. So everybody has, most of us, depending on our life path numbers, have a different length of our first pinnacle of attainment. So in this case, 12/28/1948, that's my month, day, and year of birth. So we're going to reduce that 12 to a 3. We're going to reduce the 2 plus 8, which equals a 10, and 1 plus 0 equals a 1. That's my birthday number. And 1948 is a master number. It's a 22. But for these purposes, we're going to reduce the 22 to a 4. Now we're going to add all 3 of these numbers together. 3 plus 1 is 8, plus 4 equals 8, which is my life path number. And starting with the number 36. Now, I mentioned there are 4 pinnacles of attainment, and they start with the 9 life path number, the 9 number, not the life path number, but the 9 number. And when we multiply the 9, which is the number of humanity in each of our cycles, we get the number 36. So the number 36 for everybody, no matter what your life path number is. We start with the number 36 and we subtract our life path number from the number 36. So in this instance, which is mine, you can learn from me, the first pinnacle, we subtract my life path number from the number 36 to arrive at the length of my first pinnacle, which will be from my 0 of birth, because I'm not born in a 1, I'm born in no year. So my first pinnacle goes from 0 to the end of my 28th birthday. Now for the second pinnacle, we add together the day of birth, which in this case is a 1, with my year of birth, which in this case, 1948, would reduce to a 4. And we get my second pinnacle, which is the number 5. And the number 5 lasts from the 29th year for the next 9 years to my age 38. And that is a 5. Now, how do we compute the third pinnacle? The third pinnacle, we add very easily the number of my first pinnacle to the number of my second pinnacle. So 4 plus 5 equals 9. My third pinnacle will be a 9 pinnacle. So I'll have to be featuring on the aspects of what that 9 means. In the second pinnacle, I've got to study the meanings of the number 5. And in this third pinnacle, it's going to last from the 39th year, the first day of my 39th year, to the last day of my 48th year. Now, the last pinnacle, pinnacle number 4, I add my month of birth, which in this case is a 3, because December is 1 plus 2 equals 3. And I add that to my year of birth, which is 1948, which is a 22, and 2 plus 2 is 4. So 3 plus 4 is a 7. And that 49th pinnacle, which I am, that last pinnacle, which I'm in now, which is a 7 pinnacle, it lasts from the first day of my 49th year all the way until I shut my eyes. So let's get going. As I mentioned, you're going to add each of the numbers together, and to find the length of your pinnacles, and when they begin, we don't reduce the number. But say your month and day is February 7th. When you add 4 plus 7 together, you're going to get an 11, okay? You may not want to reduce that pinnacle, that first pinnacle, later on in life. Your first pinnacle is going to be literally a 2 if you reduce it. But later on, you're going to be asked to function at that higher level of illumination. So you can read the 2 and you can read the 11. For the purpose of later on, in this episode, we're going to be studying the 7, the 8, the 9, the 11 pinnacle, and the 22 pinnacle, okay? So I'm going to review right now for you very quickly. The first pinnacle is the most personal pinnacle in nature, and it represents your early years in life. It's very interesting if you study what happens to you in the early years, because that's a pinnacle that, when I say it's personal, is we really don't have much control over it. We're young children at a certain age, so we really can't live our own lives. We've got to listen to other people. But for a lot of us, now take my first pinnacle goes to the end of my 28th year. After 21, 22, I'm going into 23 and 24, I am already a young adult. So I'm working in the 4, which we discussed in another pinnacle, which means working very hard, nose to the grindstone, laying a firm foundation under everything, budgeting. And during that period of time, I think I was 24 or 25, I bought my own first house early in life. And believe me, I was working around the clock, saving my money in order to buy that house. That second pinnacle, we're a little bit older. In my situation, the second pinnacle going from 29 to 38, now I'm older. I become more worldly and group-oriented. And now I'm squarely away, beginning to understand that I have obligations outside and also to the inside world. And I certainly did have obligations. I had family obligations. I was raising a son as a single parent. And even though I had tremendous freedom, because I had a very good job and I was paying off my house and I was doing very well, I still had family obligations. And if you go back and you read the part 2 of this series, where I discuss pinnacles 1 through 5, in the 5 pinnacle, I always remind you, don't overspend, be careful of your money. Make sure you always put something away for a rainy day, because the number 5 is the number of freedom. It's the number of versatility. We love to be pretty. We love beautiful things. We love clothing. We love to travel. We love the fact that we have our freedom and no restrictions. But with that, we can also tend to overspend. So we want to be careful. In that 3rd pinnacle, now this is a major pinnacle of one's life. It's a pinnacle where we're laying down long-term major pursuits, lucrative interests. We're making a major firm foundation under all of our projects so that in later life, we're going to be more comfortable. For many people, it's during some part of that 3rd pinnacle where sometimes we change our professions and we're laying a new foundation down for the things we want to do in the future, in order that in the last pinnacle, we can either coast, we can retire, we can begin new things, but nobody wants to go through that last pinnacle stuck financially. So in the 3rd pinnacle, again, when I say we're pursuing long-term goals and lucrative interests, some of those goals are financially planning for our future, so that we're very, very careful in where we put our investments, what we are investing in, that we're diversifying for the future, and also putting money away. Sometimes we're doing both. We're putting money away and we're putting our kids through college. So money becomes an issue in that 3rd pinnacle. In the 4th pinnacle, we call it one of reflection. It's the winter of our lives. For me, it would be 49 and up. And today, 49 and forward is not the winter of our lives, but it is the last pinnacle. And for some people, they're retiring at 62 and 63. For other people like me that are way past that number, way past, there is not going to be any retirement. But as most of you know, I am a trust and estates litigator and an elder law litigator. I've been that for many, many years. And this last pinnacle gives me the opportunity. Now, that's a very specialized field, but it also gives me the opportunity to bring to you and to post my avocation, which has been the metaphysical study of numbers and the predicting of people's numbers and where they're heading in their lives. And I've been doing that all my life, but I get to do it to you without worrying financially about my future, because I don't do any readings. So if anybody tells you, it's going to cost you whatever to get a reading from Sylvia, you know that that's not true, because I am not doing readings. I am teaching you online, and I do this as a public service, metaphysical and a spiritual service right now, because I don't really need the money, and it's my pleasure to teach you. I do have 4 books up on Amazon, so go shoot my name up there. I'll be talking about them very, very briefly at the end of the show. So as I say, a lot of people, though, are able in the 4th pinnacle to retire nicely and for long periods of time. No one knows when our time to pass will come. And I always say it's important to continue to save for the future, because the baby boomers and the millennials were expected to live a very, very long time. And you never want to be caught short without having enough to support yourself. So it is the reflection part of your life. I mean, at this stage of my life, I'm a grandmother of two, and I have a son who's also a lawyer and a grandson who's going to law school. So everybody is, law and plumbing are the two professions of the family. And frankly, they're two good professions. But I do have the ability in this last pinnacle of mine to reflect and to quietly engage in my metaphysical pursuits, which I enjoy so much. It's more of a quiet time for me because my child is grown and my grandson is grown, although I continue to work out of a preference to work because I enjoy what I'm doing. So let's get started right now into that 7 pinnacle. As I told you, my 4th pinnacle is a 7. So with all 7s, it's a highly specialized number. It's a spiritual number. It's a philosophical and a metaphysical number, and it never takes anything for granted. So if you tell a number 7 that the sky is blue, the number 7 in wherever it's placed, whether it's your birthday number, your life path number, your pinnacles of attainment, your achievement number, the number 7 will never believe you on face value. It'll run to the window and it'll check to see if the sun is shining. The number 7 during any period of its life needs a good education, a good avocation, because it is going to require to specialize in something. It requires perfection, exactness, the application to your skills, to what you've learned. And by applying the skills, I mean, the 7s are definitely going to put those 10,000 hours, maybe 20,000, 30,000, if you're a highly specialized professional or a doctor. I would say a doctor, a lawyer, some computer specialists. The more hours you put in with the number 7, the more highly specialized and intuitive you become. Your intuition tells you things that nothing else tells you. While you go digging for the truth, you may be going to dig for what your brain tells you is really the answer. And 9 times out of 10, if you follow your intuition with a number 7, you're going to be correct. The 7s can bring in a lot of money because of their specialization. Fame, acclaim, recognition is usually there for being very smart and gifted in what you do. The 7s have a tendency to be more quiet and poised later on in the pinnacles. Sometimes they're less interested in the financial rewards or the material rewards, as I like to say, as much as they are in the quiet pursuit and engagement of their study. It still means they will be recognized, even though they may not be punching a clock or watching a clock to get a fee. They will still enjoy great rewards. One of the things the 7s have to be careful for on the downside, because in the beginning, that first pinnacle, which is personal to you, in many ways, the grass may be appear greener on the other side of the fence. As you move out of that pinnacle and you grow, you will see that that is not true. With all 7s, you have to watch out for depression and repression. We might feel depressed, or we stuff our emotions down. Now, you don't want to do that, because that will stop you from pushing forward in your field, and it could greatly reduce your confidence level and your sense of accomplishment. Now, whenever you're having a bad day, I suggest you get on the internet and listen to some of these affirmations. There are lots of them by Louise Hay and other people that can literally take you out of a bad day. So remember that there are lots of things on the internet which are occult and metaphysical and philosophical online that you can study that are really interesting as you search for wisdom, because the 7s are always searching in some way for wisdom. Why am I here? Watch also in those early years, even in your later years, but more particularly the habits that you develop in that first pinnacle, that you don't get engaged or you don't involve yourself with heavy emotional outbursts. You don't become a dramatic queen or a king. They will really hurt your health, and it could ruin a couple of days every time you have a bad outburst. So try to go quiet. Meditation is always great for everyone, especially for the sevenths in the first pinnacle, because it will help you reduce your stress and help you think carefully. And those emotional outbursts we always have to be careful for, because they can make us sick. And it really is a negative habit that, if it isn't caught early, will follow you during your life. So, as I mentioned, stress could be really attacked by keeping a positive attitude all the time, developing academic pursuits that are going to bring you rewards later in life. With the seven, is like the four, slow and steady wins the race. Don't expect anything fast with a seven, because the seven is constantly digging deeper and deeper and deeper for the truth. And you may rise and shine early academically. My daughter-in-law did. She was a 7, first pinnacle. It was a 34 pinnacle, which is the same pinnacle I'm in that reduces to a 7. I'm in that as my last pinnacle. And she rose early. In the accounting area, I met a woman the other day who rose very early, 30, 40 years ago, in teaching children that had learning disabilities at a time when there was very little that anybody knew about learning disabilities. So that 7, if applied, if you apply yourself, you can do very, very well, even in your first pinnacle. As the second and the third pinnacle, you're climbing further. Whatever your first pinnacle was, now you're getting down to research, writing, investigative pursuits that along a specialized line of employment that are going to bring you attainment. I'll bet you that a lot of people in the CIA and the FBI and a lot of detectives in police departments, forensic analysis, in all areas, they have a heavy 7 somewhere in their numbers, because it's that research and that nitpickiness, that aspect that Virgo has, which is great, especially in their work, where the answer isn't enough unless it's the exact answer. There is great attainment in the second and the third pinnacles with a 7, because if you don't retire after that, you're only going to go higher. Now, you've got to be careful when you're married with a 7, because it can be a moody number. And you want to make sure that, as I said before, depression and regression, that you don't repress your emotions or depress yourself. Make sure that you have a partner that understands that you may need a lot of alone time. A lot of 7s at any point love to go by water. It calms their nerves and walk by the beach. So you may want to do that. Now, as a last pinnacle, which is the pinnacle I'm in, you're going to find that anything of a specialized nature will promote you even further and bring lots of recognition. Now, if you haven't acquired that specialized talent, in and by the time you hit your last pinnacle, in today's world, there's still more time to go back to school or to begin to study something that is specialized in nature as a vocation or as academically. Right now, it's never too late. Remember that my last pinnacle began at 49 years old. Now, I don't see people retiring at 49. Elon Musk doesn't. I don't even think Elon Musk is 49 yet. But there's plenty of time today to go back to school and to apply yourself so that you can make money and put it away in an area that you might not have had the time or the ability before to even go and study something that you really want to do. I mean, today it's not unusual to go to law school at 50 years old. I mean, I didn't, but it's not unusual to do it. There are plenty of things that you could do as we get older. So, don't lose hope, remain encouraged, keep your confidence level high, and, watch your money. If you watch your money during your life, you will find that even if you hit that last pinnacle attainment where you've got to watch your money because it may fluctuate, you will have enough to really go back to school and to specialize or to engage in any of your hobbies that may cost your money. I knew a gal in banking once that was very high up in the banking field with a foreign bank. And she hit her last pinnacle early in life, and she retired and learned for the first time how to paint and became very, very successful very quickly as a painter in her last pinnacle. So there you go. Anything is possible. So watch appearing aloof and too introspective. I think at times when I'm in my quiet mode, I can appear aloof. I don't mean to appear aloof. It's just that I'm spending my free time diving deep, writing, research, studying, and of course, working. And I'm also a grandmother, so I have a lot on my plate. You may appear scholarly and quiet to your friends, but one thing I can almost guarantee you is that your friends will respect you in that last pinnacle for your wisdom and your judgment when they come to you and they ask for it. I always say, don't volunteer too much unless people ask, unless this is somebody that is very dear to you and you're not going to insult them by telling them what you think. Nobody really wants to hear somebody's opinion all the time. But when asked, or if it's close to you and it's a loved one and you don't want them to make a mistake, you can offer your opinion and say, you may want to consider this. Sometimes we're just planting the seed in somebody's mind so that they don't make a major mistake in life. So let's move on to that 8 pinnacle. Now, as my life path number is an 8, nobody understands the 8 more than me. It's a highly charged, powerful number. You feel very strong always in an 8. And one of the things you have to be careful for, no matter where the 8 shows up, your month, day of year, your pinnacle, your achievement number, your life path number, you've got to watch out for burnout, because 8s have a lot of power that they're born with, a lot of energy, and they have to funnel that energy, which is very important, into financial endeavors, business endeavors, executive more than administrative. The number 5 is administrative. The number 8 is more executive in nature. It is a number, though, that does bring prestige. Very, very ambitious number, the 8, but it's a number that requires you to constantly work because it is created by 2 4s. And the 4 is a number that is always nose to the grindstone, very little free time. Great management skills. That's what you are working at a very early age. It requires stamina, which means good health habits, early to bed, early to rise, good stamina, Expenses will be high at certain times, so budgeting, you're learning during this 8 at any pinnacle how to budget your time, how to have good fiscal judgment, because the rewards are going to be outstanding at some point in life. The number 8 vibrates to real estate and your possessions, antiques, because the 8 is ruled by Capricorn, and Capricorns are very heavily into property and the antique business and anything that involves their own business and big business. You're going to be involved throughout your life with your finances and with your possessions. So you want to be fiscally responsible. As I mentioned, hard work, sound judgment, executive skills, that's very important. Now, the number 8 is the number of infinity. Infinity is this way. The number 8 is this way. And it's the number of karma. So under any 8 pinnacle, first, second, third, fourth, as well as your life path number, what you're learning during your achievement period, anytime you see the number 8, don't trust to your luck. The 8 says, put your nose to the grindstone and do the work. Do the preparing. Don't think that you can go to the corner that often and purchase the winning lottery number, because the chances are more no than yes that the 8 is going to win. I might be able to give you great lottery numbers. It doesn't mean I'm going to win the lottery myself. I don't think I've won more than $2 in the lottery, but I enjoy watching other people win. So also during the 8, be careful who you trust. Be careful where your confidence is placed in others. Often we see the good part of people very quickly, and that colors our judgment of their negative side there. So be careful. We should not take an emotional approach to life under an 8. And under an 8 is learning balance, the yin and the yang. Adhere to, if you can, an intellectual approach to life. Before you explode, draw back, study the situation, then move forward to see whether you're in the right, in the wrong, if another person's offended you or something is wrong. But whatever you do, don't explode, because the 8 life path is extremely, the 8 life path, the 8 period, is a very powerful number. It just doesn't go push, it goes boom. So you want to be careful about how you present yourself to others. The 8 is always business minded and gives itself a business appearance. So you always want to dress the way you want to be addressed in public. So if you're a business minded person, you don't want to walk around with ripped jeans unless you're in the fashion business. Now, as a first pinnacle, that first pinnacle of an 8 is not going to be easy. It's going to be going to work at an early age, even during high school, if that's what you want. A constant effort is going to have to be put behind your education, all of it, even if it's advanced education, and because that is going to set the standard. Finances are going to be important. Budgeting is going to be important. If you're going to school, applying for loans and getting scholarships is going to be important, because your expenses are going to be high. However, you're building that foundation, one pinnacle on top of the other, in order to achieve and enjoy your life as life goes on in the 3rd, the 2nd, 3rd, and in the 4th pinnacle. Your first pinnacle is very personal to you. It was very personal to me. As I mentioned to you, my first pinnacle was a 4, and I'm an 8 life path. And what did I do? I bought a home. I think I was 24 years old when I bought my first home. I already had a master's degree. So thank God I was on scholarship. It would have cost me a bloody fortune. But still, it was nose to the grindstone constantly, as I was also raising a child as a single parent. Parents should always teach their children to, during the first pinnacle, to handle money wisely. Now, that's very, very important, because in order to attain in later life, handling your money in an 8 pinnacle is very, very important, especially as the 1 pinnacle. Now, my son's birthday, his month and day of year is 10. His month and day of birth is 10/16, which is a 26. 2 plus 6 is an 8 pinnacle. So his first pinnacle of attainment was an 8. And like his mother, he was working at a very early age, going to school as well. So he learned what he saw his mother do, which was go to work. But even if your mother's pinnacle is a different pinnacle than yours, which was as my son and mine was, say the mother's pinnacle is a 5, but the child's first pinnacle is an 8, you still want to encourage your child. If your child wants to make some extra money, wants to have a paper route, wants to put up a lemonade stand, you want to encourage your child to make money and to save money and to, in some way, teach them how to invest their money. A sense of balance is very, very important. As I mentioned, that 8 is the number of infinity. It's the number of karma. So you want to be very, very careful to teach your child not to go all the way to the right or all the way to the left. Like the tennis player, when the tennis player hits the ball and they're advised by their trainer to always get back to that center line and stay in the middle and move this way and that way, left and right. Try to teach your child the same thing. Try to do it yourself as an adult. During the second and the third pinnacle, we're bringing financial growth in all areas of our lives. And it will be not a lazy time. It's a time where we can achieve on a high level, and we can attain on a high level, and financial status is wonderful, success is possible. And there are gains that are part of the rewards. And it's a very, very strong, these are 2 very strong pinnacles where you can make a lot of money, you can save a lot of money, you can invest wisely in real estate and good investments, and diversify in order that later on in life you are doing well. It's a very strong in pinnacle of influence that requires efficiency in everything you do. So if your second and your third pinnacle, if you're in your second or your third pinnacle, or the number 8, any kind of 8 is your second and third pinnacle, keep your eye on the ball. Always remember to save and to invest, diversify for a rainy day, because this is the time, and you're young, where you could really make it. Now, you could see that my second and my third pinnacle was never an 8, okay? My life path was an 8, so I'm striving for these numbers, the same numbers that you will see in an 8 pinnacle. That is my life path number, so that's the story of my life in order to make money and save. As a last pinnacle, you could forget about retiring. With an 8 pinnacle, you're not going to have an early retirement. There's still a lot of work to be done. And remember, as I said, that 4th pinnacle, as the last pinnacle, is still coming very early in many of our lives. So what I would say is that people that have an 8 pinnacle as a last pinnacle aren't going to find themselves retiring at 62 or 65, especially if they own their own business. They're really making money, they're investing, and there's no need, they don't want to retire. So don't expect an early retirement, but part of it is that they don't want to retire. And that's great also. During all your pinnacles, though, especially when you're in an 8 pinnacle and some of the pinnacles that we're going to be discussing involving the master numbers, you want to keep your health up and you want to exercise, because keeping your exercise, your wealth is in your health, and keeping a good exercise program will give you the creative stamina you need to keep going forward. You might be able to partially retire in an 8 last pinnacle, but dollars to donuts, you're probably going to do something else that involves some kind of heavy dedication. It could be of philanthropy. It could be now that you're going to be involved in heavy charitable work. So again, watch those pinnacles, because while you could partially retire, you could also partially be engaged in commercial, business, and professional ventures, all because they are well worth your effort. Now let's go to that 9 pinnacle. Remember, the 9 is the number of humanity. It's the number of mankind. And in anywhere, any 9 is placed anywhere. I know we're talking about the pinnacles, but wherever the 9 is, you have to learn to love others and to take care of others without expecting much in return. It can be difficult early in your life. It is where you learn to give to others and to take care of others. And the hard part in our early years is that we're not prepared for it. We don't have the talent to care for others because we're kids ourselves, or we're in the early part of our lives, and we're just learning how to take care of ourselves. Unconditional love, though, is what is expected during any of the 9 pinnacles, no matter where it shows up. Compassion, universal understanding, tolerance for others, and less for yourself must be learned in order for you to be successful in the future. And the least amount of time you focus on yourself and the me, and the more you focus on others, the more you gain respect and the love of other people for the love that you give out. It comes right back. There will be an interest very often in artistic and philanthropic pursuits. So even at a young age, you may be the one that sells all the Girl Scout cookies, or the one that gave the most blood in the high school blood bank, or the one that goes down to the nursing home and plays the piano. That's a 9 for you. Giving back to others what you are good at in order to make them happy. There's a sense of selflessness that's got to be learned often. Disappointment goes along with it, because our egos are involved when we're young, and it can be painful to watch somebody else get top honors when you feel that you've worked very hard for it. But in any case, that learning of selflessness and overcoming the disappointments of life, it'll get us somewhere. As I mentioned, life does not call for you to dwell on yourself. It calls for you to have a tolerance for others and attending to the needs of others. Very frequently, there's a heavy emphasis on the vibration of the father. The father is very important. The father is either the problem, or the father is either looked at unrealistically as some kind of God who can do no wrong. But the father, as a first pinnacle, is going to be a very important influence. Now, if the father is a negative influence, or you feel the father is a negative influence during your first pinnacle of life, you should have that pretty well worked out as time goes on. The number 9 is also the number of completion. Sometimes these completions in our lives, people go out of our lives and we're upset, but the completion often frees us up in life to carry on in other areas of our lives that we may not have been able to do before. So it's completing major endeavors and responsibilities. Sometimes it's a heavy art career that we're ending. We're ending our personal avocation sometimes because we're not making as much money, but we're taking those art talents in the second and the third pinnacle, and we're using them in other areas. You have to learn to let go. The nine pinnacle, no matter where it is, it emphasizes letting go and moving on. As I mentioned already, the first pinnacle for a child is not easy because we're young adults and we are not learning selflessness easily. Usually we have a lot of responsibilities. Sometimes it's taking care of our sisters and our brothers. And as I mentioned, that father figure is very important in the life. Maybe the father figure is causing confusion and distress, or the father figure is looked at as an unattainable superstar. I'll never be able to accomplish what my father's accomplished. Or the father is on the opposite side, the one that's caused you great pain. Sometimes your father dies at the father figure or the major masculine figure. Maybe there was never a father figure in your life, but you have a first 9 pinnacle. You might have a grandfather or a strong male vibration that passes, and the death is a major loss to you. Or maybe your father's been absent most of your life. Maybe he's in the military and he goes away for long periods of time and your mother has to raise you. Or maybe there's a divorce in the family and there's the absentee part of your family. Or in my situation, even though I don't have a first pinnacle of a 9, my father worked around the clock. So we met my father at 7 or 8 o'clock in the driveway when my father came home from work. So at that first pinnacle, often there could be, that's the hardest pinnacle now. It's a time when a romantic relationship or a line of work may be left behind, but it often, as I said, frees you up for doing other things. As a second and a third pinnacle, great accomplishments are possible in attending to the needs of others. You can make a lot of money in the second and the third pinnacle, a lot of recognition. A lot of our politicians have 8 and 9 pinnacles in them because they're dealing with humanity all the time. So there's great forward movement in the second and the third pinnacle because their sense of selflessness is already very well established, and their job is to look out for the needs of other people in the community. So, as I said, your goals during the second and the third pinnacle are well established. They can bring great success, financial rewards, as long as you don't focus on the self. Now, when it comes to the self, the good part is you can lose money and make money just as quickly back in the second and the third pinnacle. It's really not bad. These are not bad pinnacles. And, by listening and taking care of the problems of other people and being responsible and obligated to take care of others, it brings you great appreciation, fame, and rewards. As a final pinnacle, it does allow you to retire nicely later on in life. It brings philanthropic pursuits. It also brings the opportunity. The 9 is long distance travel, an uplifting of your spirits. You can go to the dramatic arts. You can take up art. You can take up drama. You can take up anything you want. And it's a lot of fun with the 9 last pinnacle. There will be a lot of freedom, and sometimes it's even earlier in life, because you have a spouse that's making money and you no longer have to focus on that. Now, the 11 pinnacle is a master number. It's the higher vibration of the two. And as a master number, you're vibrating much quicker than others. There are wonderful opportunities along the lines of religious and spiritual pursuits, inventiveness. There is a fame could come at any stage, even in the early stages, through partnerships, associations, even marriage can bring you fame at an early period of time. Because the 11 vibrates so quickly and it's got a showmanship quality. Many of our actors and actresses, our childhood stars, are carrying that 11 vibration early in their life. It's electrically charged. When an 11 walks in the door, you immediately know it. All heads turn to the 11. Clinton had an 11 life path number. So look what he had. He had absolute charisma, Bill Clinton. So he had an opportunity in the limelight very early in life. He attained great success academically very early in life. He appeared before the public and ran for public office very early in life. And all of these things can happen to you as well if your first pinnacle is an 11. Conditions can be very difficult during your first pinnacle. Like all pinnacles, there's no really great guiding light most of the time. Some people are lucky, but most of the time, there's no great guiding light showing you the way. Lots of times people with an 11 first pinnacle do not have parents that have a very, very broad and in-depth education, and they've got to go it themselves, and they seek out mentors to help them along the way. So that first pinnacle, again, even for the 11, is difficult. Your pursuits require you, though, to have lots of personal inspiration and confidence in yourself. Courage is always required whenever there is a master number for a pinnacle, and to have confidence. There will be tense periods with an 11 because you are vibrating faster than most people. But if you think along the lines of achievement and you keep your nose to the grindstone, you're going to do very, very well. Parents can have a problem teaching their 11 first pinnacle child proper values. Children with 11 first pinnacle can be difficult. They can be overly sensitive. They can spend too much money because they want to be stars. They're probably very good at whatever they do because they're carrying, if it's the 11 gets reduced to the 2 pinnacle, the 2 pinnacle is highly statistical. It carries finger and hand dexterity. So I could see some young men being great soccer and hockey players, great baseball players, but also difficult at home. The period of the 11 pinnacle carries a female vibration, which means the mother as opposed to the father. We just discussed the 9 pinnacle carries a father, a heavy father foundation or a vibration. The number 11 pinnacle carries a feminine vibration, which means your mother or your grandmother or your aunt or a favorite teacher is going to be in some way very much involved with raising you during your early years, more than the masculine. And they will be teaching you very important responsibilities during your first pinnacle of attainment. Now, this 11 in the second and the third pinnacle attainment can pivot you in no matter what you do into a major leadership position, but could pivot you right into the limelight and bring you applause and excitement early in life, because your first pinnacle of attainment with the 11 is not going to end until 34. So 35 until 44 is your second pinnacle attainment. 44 to 53 is your third pinnacle attainment. And, that's a lot of years where you're going to be shining. So if you keep your nose to the grindstone and you look to illuminate the plight of humanity or anything you do in any work of life, you're going to be really recognized, and you have a great opportunity to be pivoted into fame and fortune because you're well liked and you can do the job, and you probably also have that star-like quality, which is wonderful. Nervous tension, again, be careful about nervous tension. Learn that your wealth is in your health. So make sure that you're running or you're doing some kind of activity in your body that is going to take that nervous tension out of your body. Metaphysical pursuits, philosophical pursuits, meditating are always good, as well as exercise as we get older. As a final and a fourth pinnacle, you could expect partial retirement. And that is because usually with an 11 pinnacle, you're still going to be in the limelight. And who wants to leave the limelight if it's your fourth pinnacle that you're just entering at the age of 54? I mean, that's really young today. Remember that as baby boomers and are those that are younger, not only the baby boomers, but the children that are born today, that were born in 2000 and further, okay? The millennials, as we call them, either 1998 and further, they're expected to go maybe even to 125 years old. The baby boomers are going well into their 90s. Some are going to be hitting 100. So you've got to leave yourself enough money also to live on, which is very, very important. So as a final pinnacle for an 11 master number, remember, these are master numbers, you're still going to be in the limelight. Recognition is possible through groups, radio, television, speaking out in your expertise, going on TV as a newscaster or as a contributing individual because you're highly specialized. All these things are being offered to you, and you're well over the age of 54. Now we're going into that 22 pinnacle of attainment, which is another high master number. It is the higher vibration of the number 4. And the 22 pinnacle, unlike the 11 vibrates very quickly, so does the 22. But the 22 is masterful with its feet on the ground. It likes to see material results of everything it does. So you find big businessmen, international people. Remember, we live in a global environment right now. They are vibrating, many of them, to the 22. Massive expansion, consciousness, a sense of consciousness of where the world is going is needed. You have to think big. Thinking big is always going to be your motto. Your inventiveness and a sense of material success is required with feet always on the ground. You've got to cast a wide net with a 22. You've got to do your very, very best for mankind, no matter what job you're in. So if you're selling cars, you're selling a lot of cars. You're either the owner of the dealership or many dealerships. If you're in real estate, which is also controlled by the 22, you have a number of lots and a number of properties. If you're a number 22, you're all over the internet selling your product. You're globally, you think big in everything you do. Now, in our early years, very few of us, I don't know anybody, but you can in your 20s, the first pinnacle of a 22 life path number goes from 0 to 32. So as you get into those late 20s, mid to late 20s, up into the end of your 32nd year, you can vibrate at this high frequency and learn to control your energy. When you're very, very young, the chances are more that you're going to have to reduce this vibration to a single digit of the 4, which is nose to the grindstone, steady application of work, very, very little free time in order to be successful. It carries a very heavy weight and demand that you have for the benefit of others. As I mentioned, it's got a corporate and an international flavor to it. So corporate affairs, big business affairs, big companies have the 22 vibration attached to the owner or those in the big executive and administrative areas. It deals with very, very large material rewards. And it brings large material rewards and accomplishment on a very grand scale. As I said before, that first pinnacle is very heavy. It's a very hard pinnacle. Once again, it's like the 4. You're putting a firm foundation under everything that you do in working towards your steady goals. It involves budgeting and being careful about money, being fiscally responsible, and maybe some people in their mid-20s with an 11 first pinnacle could possibly be early inventors. With that 22 first pinnacle, they'll be putting their money away, buying real estate, diversifying their interests, or thinking of building their business, putting that foundation under their business for really broad, further, and huge expansion. Young individuals find themselves working at a young age and acquiring a very broad knowledge of a national and an international basis if they're educated. If they're not, they're still acquiring broad knowledge. It could be on their local level, their state level, because they're going to be working on that level. We find many big real estate development people and business people find themselves, and many actors and actresses are also carrying that 22 first vibration. And that required them to have nose to the grindstone as a first pinnacle. Now, where you're really making broad, strong jumps are the second and the third pinnacle. If the first pinnacle of a 22 life path ends at the age of 32, your second pinnacle goes 33 to 42, and your third pinnacle goes 43 to 52. Let's see, 32. The first pinnacle goes from 0 to 32. The second pinnacle goes 33 plus 9 to 42. 33 to 42. The third pinnacle goes 43 to 54. If my adding is wrong, do it yourself, because it's a retrograde right now while I'm videotaping this, recording this, so that my mind is not really there for adding too well. But once you get to the first pinnacle, the second pinnacle, you add 9 years. The third pinnacle, you add 9 years to the second pinnacle. And the last pinnacle is the next year of the last year of the third pinnacle for the rest of your life. So that third pinnacle, you're really making large advances on a very broad scale. If your final pinnacle is a 22 pinnacle, don't expect to retire. You're going to be doing something where you have lots of energy, awesome energy, and you will have already learned how to do something, or you're finally able to accomplish something or to be involved in something that you did not have the time to be involved in before. So if you are retired and from your own business now of the 22 vibration, you may be the head of a large philanthropic organization where you're expanding that philanthropic organization globally. More likely than not, you're not. More likely, you're expanding your own business or the business that you work for on a very high level, internationally and globally. Big projects are being established very strongly in all areas to move forward, and you're going to have a lot of energy. You're probably not going to want to retire at all. So when you don't want to retire, like I don't, you don't retire. So let me get back here and let me get back to where I am and say that when we talk about the 33 pinnacle, if you have a 33, which rarely happens, but it does happen sometimes. For example, if you're born November 22nd, your first pinnacle is going to be a 33. You're also going to have finite hand dexterity because the 2 brings finite hand dexterity, and the 11 reduces to a 2, and the 22 has 2 more 2s, okay? So the reason I say that it is possible to carry this number, and that is because you're not going to be making a major change in your life from 0 to the end of 30, because your first pinnacle is going to be a 33 reduced to a 6. And as 36 is our first number of mankind, we subtract the 6, which is the person's life path number, and we get the first pinnacle running from 0 to the end of the 30th year. Now, people do have a first pinnacle of 33. I had a dentist that had it, and he became very famous very early. He became a teacher very early, and I can imagine how many hours he spent in the clinic, probably at New York University or whatever college, dental school he went to, taking care of people's teeth and, doing all kinds of procedures on them, because he had that first pinnacle of a 33-6. Now, during that period of time, people are usually taking care of philanthropic organizations or the philanthropic side of something, and that's probably where the dental clinic came in, as well as taking care of their families. They may have to take care of their sisters and their brothers, but often there's a very heavy emphasis with the 33 anywhere in your pinnacles of attainment with taking care of others. And great amount of fame comes, as I mentioned before, with a 6. A 6 carries very heavy responsibility anywhere in its life. And by carrying that heavy responsibility, they make a lot of money. So the money goes out. Yes, do they take care of their children and their family? And do they put a roof over the head of their loved ones? Yes. But they do have a more peaceful and a solid life, a good, firm foundation of living. And it does bring them more joy and satisfaction with helping other people. So that's about it. I'm just dipping my foot into the 33 because the 33 is going to carry a very heavy vibration also. It's also going to be extremely difficult in the early years because you're going to be called upon to take care of others. And with all of the master numbers, your health is in your wealth. Fiscal responsibility is important. Taking care of others is important. But remember, you pick these numbers. These pinnacles of attainment are coming off of your own life path. You picked it yourself. You picked when you were going to be born. And metaphysically, you also picked your parents, whether you like them or you don't like them, to grow and to learn. So that's it for part 3. I'm considering dipping my hand into part 4 to teach you about how you want to handle the double-digit numbers when they show up as pinnacles, because my last pinnacle is a 34-7, and I won't be retiring. Here I am on YouTube teaching you how to do this. But I want to remind you that I have 4 books out there, and they are volume 1 and volume 2 of Live Your Life by the Numbers. The first book I published in 1991 with Penguin and got my rights back. And all of the material that Penguin first told me to keep out because it was too long, I created a second volume. So there's volume 1 and volume 2 of Live Your Life by the Numbers, Your Guide to Numerology. Then I have a book just for parents. It's Raise Your Kids by the Numbers. It's absolutely fantastic for you because most of your children are living in that early vibration and you're tearing your hair out and you're frightened and you don't know which way to go. And you have no idea what little geniuses your kids have. So I know that I did it. And if I didn't have numbers at an early age of life and I wasn't gifted in this area, I really would have pulled my hair out. And I raised my kid by the numbers. And I'm raising my grandkid by the numbers too. I'm teaching him that these numbers that you have call for this, this, and this. This is what you're required to do. Now, get to it. And there are certain numbers when kids are young that they're lazy. So that book, Raise Your Kids by the Numbers, Your Child's Guide to Numerology, is a very important book. My 4th book is Magic Numbers, the study of numerology and the double-digit numbers, the power of the double-digit numbers. It's a little blue book, a blue book that talks about double-digit numbers, and I'm going to be getting into that too. So please, or review these books for me. Let me know what you think of them. It's important to me. And if you like and want to subscribe to this channel, do so. I'm always interested in what you think. Remember that today is more precious than any other day. It's only today that you're going to live. A lot of us don't wake up tomorrow. So use this time very, very wisely. And have a great day. I can't wait to see you the next time. And maybe my part 4 is going to be the pinnacles as double-digit numbers, just to give you a flavor that the real juice that we squeeze, the real emphasis on why your 7 is different than my 7 and why my last pinnacle as a 7 is different than yours really comes from studying those double-digit numbers. So we're going to get into that too. So I want to thank you very, very much for coming. I'll see you soon. Stay well. Be well. Bye now. Till the next time.